In this tutorial, we'll explore how to store documents directly in Flowwise and process them so that we can easily access, update, and manage our data whenever needed. This method will make it much simpler to add new information or remove outdated content without much hassle. Let's get started. When we're on the Flowwise homepage, the first thing we want to do is navigate to the Document Stores section. You'll find it at the bottom of the menu on the left. Think of this section as a way to organize your documents into collections, similar to folders on your computer. Each folder can hold different types of files, whether they're text files, PDFs, or other formats. This makes it very convenient to manage related documents together. To demonstrate how this works, let's go ahead and create a new collection. For this example, we'll use a web scraper to gather data from a website and store it for later use. Click on Add New and give your collection a name. Let's call it Flowwise LangChain Docs. You can also add a short description if you like, but that's optional. Once you've added the name, click Add to create the collection and open it. Now that we have our collection set up, let's start by adding some documentation. We'll begin with the official Flowwise documentation available online. To do this, click on Add Document Loader and select Cheerio Web Scraper. This tool will allow us to extract data directly from web pages. Most of the options here will look familiar if you've used web scrapers within Flowwise before. The first step is to enter the link to the Flowwise documentation website. Next, we need to set up a text splitter to process the scraped content into chunks that our AI can work with more efficiently. Scroll down to the bottom of the options and select HTML to Markdown as the text splitter. Set the chunk size to 3000 and leave the overlap at 200. We'll also adjust the Get Relative Links limit to 2, which controls how deep the scraper goes into linked pages. This is helpful for collecting related content without overwhelming our database. Once everything is set up, click Preview Chunks. It might take a few seconds to process, and you'll see a list of generated chunks on the right side. If everything looks good, click Process to store the data. Depending on the size of the website, this can take anywhere from a few seconds to a minute. You can refresh the page to check if it's ready. Let's add another source to our collection, this time the LangChain documentation. While inside your Flowwise LangChain Docs collection, click on Add Document Loader in the top navigation bar. Again, select Web Scraper and enter the URL for the LangChain documentation. We'll set Get Relative Links limit to 2 and use HTML2 Markdown for the text splitter, just like before. After previewing the chunks, click Process to store them. At this point, we have our documents stored, and we could technically use them directly within our Flowwise flows. However, to streamline future processing and make our documents more accessible for AI interactions, we'll set everything up here. To do this, click on Upsert Config in the upper right corner of the screen. This step will allow us to prepare our documents for easier retrieval and analysis within Flowwise. Let's start by selecting an embedding model. We'll use OpenAI embedding for this example. Enter your API key and leave the model set to its default. Next, we need to select a vector store. Click to choose Qdrant and enter the necessary API key and server URL. This will be where our data gets stored for quick retrieval. We'll also need to specify a Qdrant collection name. Let's call it Flowwise LangChain. The vector dimension should automatically set to 1536, which matches the embedding model we're using. However, it's always a good idea to double check that this value is correct, since it can vary depending on the model. One last thing we need to configure is the record manager. This component keeps track of updates in our database, ensuring that when we add or remove documents, we don't accidentally duplicate or leave outdated data behind. For simplicity, we'll use the SQLite Record Manager, though you can choose whichever manager suits your needs. The database file path is where our database will be stored, either on your server or locally. In our case, since Flowwise is running on a server, we'll set the path to Flowwise mydb Flowwise LangChain. Finally, set the cleanup option to full to ensure thorough maintenance of the data. When everything is configured, click Upsert and wait for the process to finish. Once completed, you'll see all your stored documents listed in the collection. You can now close this window or proceed to test your database. To verify that everything works correctly, let's use the test retrieval feature. Enter a keyword like chat flow and hit enter. In our example, the system quickly found 4 document snippets related to chat flow, confirming that everything is properly indexed and stored. Now let's create a small agent to read from this database. Navigate to chat flows and click Add New. In this flow, add the conversational retrieval QA chain node, a chat model node, and a document store node. Connect these nodes together and fill in the necessary configuration details. In the document store node, select the collection we created earlier, Flowwise LangChain docs. With everything connected, save the chat flow and test it by asking a question like, "Tell me about Flowwise." You should receive a quick, accurate response based on the documents we stored. This makes it incredibly efficient to manage and update your knowledge base. And there you have it. Now, whenever you need to update your database, it's straightforward and reliable. Simply add or remove documents from your collections, and the system will handle the rest, keeping your information up to date and easily accessible.